You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Today's show is sponsored by Dr. Jacalyn. Take charge of your life personally, financially, and professionally. Visit drjacalyn.com to book an appointment today.
Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, the business talk show. I am thrilled to be here. I am your host and executive producer, and with me today is my partner and co-host, Mr. Al Cini. Hello, Al.
Thank you.
I am loving it.
Now that we have Dr. Jacalyn swag, I
Thank
figured
you
I'd
for repping that.
audience. And at some point, you're going to have a gift shop.
Yes, I actually have a storefront on my website, and I'm slowly adding these collectible items on there. So
This is really great. I appreciate this. It's beautiful, and it's a sign that your program and your brand are growing. It's very impressive.
absolutely. So thank you. I want to welcome our friends at Business Talk Radio and also those of you out there on Facebook and YouTube. If you are on Facebook, please feel free to write anything in the comments and we'll read it live on the air. And if you are interested in any wonderful logo merchandise wrapping with Dr. Jacalyn, you can find that at drjacalyn.com. So Al, we've got a great guest here today.
We do.
I've had the pleasure of interviewing him already. His name is Matt Odie, and he is in Ohio. And he's just an incredibly gifted and talented individual who has certainly overcome adversity. And you and I were talking before the program about the fact that many of us are going through a lot of things right now, but he has a really special story.
Well, and I think that is a specialty of yours. I know, Dr. Jacalyn, in your coaching, you help people deal with setbacks in their lives. And sometimes those setbacks are business setbacks. We talk about that on the business show. But sometimes they're a little bigger than business setbacks. Sometimes they're health setbacks or personal setbacks. And, I think Matt is, what I'm looking forward to learning from Matt is how you find the strength and the courage and the sense of humor it takes to get through all that.
Yes, he, as I mentioned, he's just an incredible person. He was diagnosed with stage 3C testicular cancer. And what he went through is a story I've never heard before, and where he found the strength to recover from that and now give back and help other people is just truly a gift.
It's I've had a cancer diagnosis myself. I remember the day I heard it. I kind of looked over my shoulder. They can't be talking to me. They must mean somebody else. I can't possibly have that. I did, and you deal with it, but you go through all those stages that they tell you about in the book, and in the books that they write about it. And there is a future. You can forge a future for yourself no matter what happens to you. And I think Matt's a really, really great, stellar example of that. And he's a speaker too, isn't he, Dr. Jacalyn?
He is a motivational speaker and a coach, yes. And thank you for sharing the fact that you had cancer, Al. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I did. And, I don't consider it as something that defines me, so I don't bring it up normally. I know you've had your health problems too. And, these are things that you have, and you bond with other people who might have similar conditions and maybe help each other out. But who you are as Dr. Jacalyn is not your diagnosis of your illness. It's your skills, your talents, your strengths. And
right.
We all have to build on that. What else? What other foundation is there for a future?
Exactly. I think it's really important that people share their stories, because then it helps other people come forward and realize that it's not just them that is going through this. And so I know for me, that's why I've shared my story of ulcerative colitis and facial eczema and scalp psoriasis, all really attractive things to have.
They're difficult things to deal with. And, it's good that you can laugh through it, because otherwise, at any given point, you've got a choice to make. Am I going to move forward, or am I going to get stuck where I am? And it's more of a choice, I think, than a lot of people realize. And, when you make that choice to move forward, I think that makes a huge difference. Chris has just texted out that that both of his parents have passed from cancer. My mother was a victim of breast cancer. She died at 45, which is really pretty young. So, but she never let it define her, and she always smiled through it. And, she was one of the most resilient people. Like, oh, maybe that's my role model for this.
Right. yes, I'm sorry to hear about all the cancer diagnoses and people passing away. It's just terrible because it is a disease that has affected many, many people. And as we know, there's no cure, and how people get through it is really remarkable. So I'm looking forward to hearing Matt's story. I just want to present the opportunity. If anybody wants to call in for Matt, we'll be bringing him from backstage after the commercial, but you can call in with questions for Matt Odie by dialing 631-730-5468.
That's great, and I hope people will take advantage of that. People who are listening and watching. Also, I want to point out too that Matt is a motivational speaker, and he's taken his experiences and he's learned a way to share them with other people by speaking to crowds and groups. And I'm thinking we're coming up on the end of this year, 2020, which has been a challenging, difficult year for an awful lot of people with the pandemic and
For sure.
everything else that's going along with that. If you're planning a kickoff for 2021 for your team or an audience that you're going to invite clients to, and you want somebody to talk about adversity who can really speak to that from personal experience, Matt would be a great guy to reach out to.
Yes, and I have seen some of his presentations. He's really a dynamo, I would say. So that is terrific. If you want to reach out to Matt, I'm going to put his contact information up in case people want to take advantage of just jotting it down. So his email address and his website is mattodespeaks.com, and his name is spelled MATTODE. You can also email him at mao@mattodespeaks.com. So reach out to him if you're interested in having him present at one of your events.
Yeah, I know as a coach, we're coming up on a break, but as a coach, you help people deal with adversity like the kind that Matt's faced and maybe I've faced. How do you go about helping people find the strength that they have inside them to get through these things?
That's a great question. What I typically find is there's so many layers of feelings and emotions that people have, and many of them are sort of a wall that's blocking them from getting to what's really going on inside. When you're diagnosed with cancer, I would assume that there's a certain amount of fear, and maybe then there's some anger. And so you have to get through all those different stages. I know myself with ulcerative colitis, thank God, is nothing like cancer. But, there's a lot of shame and humiliation and fear. So you have to get through all of those. You have to actually allow yourself to realize that you're not the disease, you're not cancer, and that this is a stage in your life, but this too shall pass, God willing. So that's how I try to get people in touch with what's going on and realize that you're not to blame, you didn't do anything wrong, and that your anger, while valid, is not helping you progress. It's actually hindering you.
Actually, the way you're describing it, everybody has the strength to cope with the adversity that they face. Sometimes, though, that's kind of maybe blocked behind that wall that you talked about, where the experience has created a kind of a bottle to hold all that power and all that energy in, so that all you're left with is victimhood, which is the worst situation you could be in. So
totally agree. And Al, how about you working with organizations with BCAP, brand and cultural alignment? So you do team coaching and business coaching, and there's obviously a lot of adversity in business, different type of adversity. So how do you help people with your toolkit?
That's that's a great question, and really the solution is in my experience that all companies face challenges. Sometimes those challenges are for companies that have been around for a long time. Often the challenges are startup companies that are trying to find their feet. The real solution to solving a problem that you have in the here and now is to envision a happier, more successful future for yourself, and then make a plan to become more like that person that represents it. And brand and culture alignment really is about getting people behind a future, a positive future that they imagine and envision. What makes us different is that we involve everybody in it. So no strategy, no plan works unless it works for everybody, all the way down to the people that mop the floors and answer the phones. And for me, the real magic of organizational development is pushing those high-minded plans that are forward-facing and future-oriented, and pushing them all the way down to everybody in the organization, no matter how low or high in the organization they might be.
Yes, and I'm really excited to be partnering with you and BCATS and bringing coaching along with the BCAT toolkit. So that's exciting. And we'll have to have our own show just to talk about that.
We'll definitely have to do that.
So we are actually going to take a commercial break because I can no longer wait to bring Matt out. So let's hear from some of our friends and sponsors, and we'll be right back on Wrapping with Dr. Jacalyn. Stay tuned. We're bringing Matt Odie out with us.
Perfect.
Hey everybody, my name is Ralph Graves Jr. I'm the host of the Ralph Graves Jr. Show, and I want to invite you to pick up my book, Unstoppable. I wrote a book called Unstoppable. It's 7 universal laws that will transform how you pursue and achieve success. The one thing that my 20 years of law enforcement has taught me is that no matter who you are, we are all governed by universal laws, like gravity. But in this book, we're going to talk about laws like the law of forgiveness, laws like the law of control, the law of intelligent practice, the law of expectancy. I was able to see how those, no matter what their background was, those who identified and treated these laws with respect, they were able to go on and lead successful lives. So pick up this book, and you can go ahead and pick it up at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, RalphGravesJr.com, where anywhere where fine books are sold. Thank you.
There are 7.7 billion people on Earth today. 40% of these people are under the age of 25. Young adults are the most fertile mission field in the world today. In Scripture, we see Jesus pouring his life into 12 young adults who he equipped to change the world and all of history. Like Jesus, we believe that the best approach to reach the world with the gospel is to invest in young, emerging leaders and equip them to build disciple-making movements. Concentric is the notion of surrounding and sharing a common center. Our center is the model and strategy of Jesus for both leadership development and ministry formation. As a global alliance, we provide equipping in biblical leadership based on Jesus' example in the New Testament. Jesus modeled for us how to make disciples that reproduce. Focusing on leadership development is key to creating movements that spread the gospel and Jesus' disciple-making strategy to young leaders around the globe. Our Ministry Alliance partners are actively equipping leaders and building movements of multiplication that reproduce the life of Christ. Join us today to equip young leaders with Jesus' strategy that will change cities and nations.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAT partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAT partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
Academy Sedan and Limo is a full-service transportation company serving the Philadelphia metropolitan area with full knowledge of the New York City, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. areas. We pride ourselves on being the most dependable, conscientious company in the industry. Our always on-time service and dependable pricing make us the company to call for any event or occasion. Our vehicles can accommodate any size party for any occasion. Our vehicles range from four-door sedans to SUVs to minivans to limo buses to full-size tour buses and can accommodate groups of 2 to 100. We offer airport shuttle service or over-the-road service without limitation regarding mileage or time, and no drive is too long or too far. So if you find yourself in need of transportation of any type with any vehicle, give us a call at 610-842-4564 and let us show you what a real transportation company can do for you.
Use code ACADEMY2020 to receive 20% off your first 3 rides, including parking and tolls.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Well, hello and welcome, Matt, to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, the business talk show. It's great to see you.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and hopefully really give some good advice and impactful lessons to your audience.
Great.
Yes, we would love to hear directly from you exactly what happened when you got the cancer diagnosis.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was 24 years old at the time. I was a personal trainer, very healthy. So, the last thing you'd ever think was, oh, hey, Matt, I might, be getting sick here. So I ended up one night, I ended up puking up blood, and I got rushed to the emergency room, where they ended up finding out that I had lost 2/3 of the blood circulating from my body, which was actually equivalent to being shot with a gun. So immediately I was rushed into an emergency room where they did a surgery on me to figure out what was causing the bleeding. And the next day I came out of the surgery thinking I was fine, thinking it was all over. And then all of a sudden the doctor comes in and he has this blank stare in his eyes. And I knew at the time something just was completely off. And it was just me and my parents. And he goes over to my parents and he asks them, he says, "Can I speak to you two in private?" And I stopped him and I said, "Whatever you're going to tell them, just tell me right now." So he sits down with me, he grabs my hand and he goes, "Matt, we found an 11-centimeter tumor in your small intestine. We believe it is cancerous, and we have to rush you to the main campus of the Cleveland Clinic immediately," which is, thank goodness, one of the top hospitals in the country. But I just remember looking over my parents who were crying at the time, and it was really weird. It was probably because I was in so much shock still that I wasn't scared, but instead I said, how am I going to be strong for my parents? How am I going to be strong to give the news to my girlfriend, who I'd only been dating for 2 months at the time, to put this burden on her? How am I going to share this news to all the friends and family flooding in? So I said, I need to be strong in this situation. And one big lesson I've really learned, and this is for anybody, it doesn't have to be health, it could be business, it could be relationships. You are going to get unexpected news in your life. You're going to have challenges. You're going to have setbacks, but you can look at those setbacks. You can look at those challenges as two different ways. You can say, why is this happening to me? Or how is this happening for me? It can be completely unfair, but you can change the way you view it. If you say, why is this happening to me? It's easy to make excuses. It's easy to blame other people. It's easy to have, become the victim in that situation. But if you say, how is this happening for me? You can learn from the experience. You can grow from the experience. And more importantly, once you grow from it, you can use it to help and impact other people as well. And, that's what I decided to do. Yes, I have a ton of ups and downs as we go through my story of becoming a victim and having to overcome those situations. But in the moment, I said, how am I going to grow and learn from this experience?
Wow. There's a lot of power in that, Matt. And, as you were talking, a lot of it was ringing true with my own experiences. When you get a diagnosis like that, it affects you, obviously, but the people around you are actually, what amazed me was that my family took it harder than I did. And I felt like a big part of the burden for me anyway was, how do I manage the way they're reacting to it? And it sounds like you went through that yourself. How did you cope with that? How did you deal with that?
Yeah, it's tough. When you see somebody you love so much having such a challenging moment where I think the hardest part is they can't control the outcome or what the situation is. All they can do is be there to support you. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do everything I can to reassure that, hey, everything's going to be okay. I'm going to take every precautionary step I need to. I'm going to do, when the doctor tells me something, I'm going to go out and do it. And we have to take it one step at a time. Too often, the reason we have anxiety, we get depression, is we're too either worried about what the past, or we're too worried what's going to happen in the future. We don't stay present and say, what today do I need to get done to push myself forward?
Wow.
That's so well said. Matt, I'm just wondering, I didn't ask you this before, but at the time when you had the diagnosis, what were you doing in your life? Were you a coach? Were you a trainer?
Yeah, so I was a personal trainer at the time, and I was coaching probably around 30 clients actually, and very healthy. I was working out 6-7 days a week. What I noticed was throughout this summer, I started to have minor back pains. But of course, at 24 years old, you lift 7 days a week. I'm like, okay, this is going to obviously be because of the lifting. Yes, the back pains got really bad towards the time closer to my diagnosis, but I still would never, I was too stubborn at the time to go get it checked out. So that's what was such a big shock, is like me being extremely healthy. And I always say this, especially to young adults out there, cancer does not discriminate, because for me, I mean, a lot of the times, young adults, we don't get checked out because we're like, oh, we're fine, nothing's going to happen. But I'm not saying get checked out through every little thing. But if you notice something's wrong, just go get it checked out. The worst thing that can happen is they check it out sooner, and then you can get it taken care of quicker than when I went, which, made things a lot worse. Because when they originally, after I went to the clinic and they found out that I had the highest stage of testicular cancer, if I would have just went when I said that, hey, there's something wrong with me to the doctors, and they could have figured that out, it'd be a totally different scenario right now.
Wow. Well, that's great advice too, because I think that whole forward-thinking view of things, but I have a question for you too, because I know that after I got my diagnosis, I kind of went a little crazy on Google trying to find out what it was I had. Is Google your friend or your enemy in a situation like that?
Depends. I would say this: if you are the type of person that makes you feel better by knowing the information, in knowing like, hey, I want to know the details, Google is your friend. If you're the type of person that if you go on WebMD and you have a little pain, or if now that you're diagnosed with cancer and you start looking it up and seeing all the symptoms, and it's going to create anxiety, it's going to create all this, negative energy in your life, then you need to get it out. You need to figure out what works for you. For me, I didn't. My father, he wants to know everything. He's the type of person who's like, I want to know all this information. I want to know the step-by-step process. And I'm like, hey, listen, I'm going to listen to my doctors, whatever they want to tell me, I will do it. But I'm not going to, put this burden on myself. And I think it's either way. So some people go one way and others go different.
Well,
Matt, thank you so much for sharing part of your story. We do have a couple of video clips, and I want to bring them on. And I'm just going to say, because of the StreamYard platform, it's going to go over you. So
no worries. You're
if
good.
You can tell our friends at Business Talk Radio what exactly is going on in the video, that would be great. I'm going to show both of them, okay?
Yeah.
Oh, good job. Easier. There you go.
Maybe not easier, but
surgery where I had many complications involved. I had kidney and liver failure. I was in a coma for over 2 weeks. I went to cardiac arrest. They thought I was going to be on dialysis the rest of my life. And in that particular moment was when I was trying to completely relearn to walk again. I'd have 3-4 nurses every single day trying to get me out of a bed. And this actually didn't have as much to do with cancer as it did to do with taking the cancer out of me and the surgery that it entailed. And I can go more in detail if you want, but that was a little bit later on in my journey. And that was where I was really fighting for my life and where all the real massive complications came into play.
I can't even imagine. I'm going to play the second video, and I just realized that you're not able to speak while the video is on because of StreamYard. So we'll just take a look at this.
Okay.
Roll a little bit. 2, 3. Oh boy. Smile.
Yeah, can you turn your head towards me over here? Look.
Amazing what you can do when you
this?
find that in the camera.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So that was closer towards the end. I was actually doing a lot better in that video. If you could tell though, I had actually dropped down from 185 pound personal trainer in August all the way to just 8 months later to 110 pounds. And in that picture or in video, I was really getting into the stages of walking. As you could tell, 10 meters was a challenge for me. It was a big hurdle for me. And, that was probably a week and a half before I was finally released from the hospital. So it's been a journey, and I ended up being in the hospital for 53 days. I was in the ICU for over 40 days. I had 5 massive surgeries on my stomach. And the last surgery that they ended up doing on me was what's called an open wound surgery, where they couldn't close me back up. So they had to leave a football-sized mesh over my stomach, taking out all of my abdominals, which, did not make life easy, but it's what they had to do. And, that video right there kind of symbolizes the true weight that I'd lost and the struggle that I was facing.
Wow. So you were 24 when all that was happening?
24 to 25. So I was 24 when I was diagnosed with cancer, and then I turned 25 right before I had my surgery.
Wow. And how old are you now?
Yeah, I was just saying.
20. I'm 28. I'm actually going to be 29 November 18th.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's great. That takes on real meaning after you've been through what you've been through. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
But are you back to like a normal life now? Do you find you're back into I guess you're a trainer again? I know you're a speaker.
Yeah. So I am back to life again, but in such a better version of myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I always look at it this way. The greater the adversity, the greater the opportunity, the greater the potential you have to grow, the more that you can expand who you really are truly meant to be. You know, and this is a really good analogy for business, especially business owners. You are going, I know for a fact you're going through setbacks, but you have to realize that every setback that you go financially, not getting the client you want, you know, having setbacks in your business with, you know, your employees, is all allowing you to grow. Remember, every failure is feedback. Every no gets you closer to a yes. And that's what I learned through this experience is, you know, it took me 2 years just to regain my mental, emotional, physical health after, you know, that video. It took me 2 full years just to take care of myself. I wasn't able to help anybody at first. So it allowed me to grow, and it allowed me to change my identity into such a greater version of myself. And it allowed me to figure out, you know, for me, who I was, you know, truly meant to be on this earth. So
that's great outcome.
Really great. Matt, I'm wondering something. Al and I talk about teams and rowing in the same direction. Did you feel during your journey that your medical team, your family, your girlfriend, that you were all rowing in the same direction in terms of your care?
Yes. My mom, man, yes and no. Yes. I mean, the medical staff was incredible. I'm going to say this first off. I wouldn't be here today without them, 100%. So they're absolutely incredible. But, you know, my dad, very knowledgeable. I mean, doctors literally would come in, and because he was the person, when he goes out and does his research, he does his research. Like literally doctors, I swear, and nurses were like, are you like an actual doctor? They actually thought my dad was like a doctor on the side, not at the clinic. And they're asking him all these questions. They're like, no, I just have been doing my research. So you have my dad on one side, and then my mom who's questioning everything on the other side because she just wants the best for me. And it's like, she's fighting with the nurses saying, I don't know if this is right. I don't know if that is this. And they're like, just let me do my job. So it was kind of a battle. My girlfriend was kind of in the middle, who I'm going to get to in a second, was my absolute rock throughout this journey. She was the person who gave me the mental and emotional strength to keep pushing forward every single day. But between my mom and my dad, my mom is super faith-based, and I am too. And she would, you know, do a lot of praying and stuff, but she'd do a lot of questioning too. So it was a little bit of a challenge, a little bit of a headbutting, but eventually we got to a point where it's like, hey, listen, we're all in this together. We're all doing this at the same, you know, we're all trying to get to the same outcome. This might be good for the election right now. Shoot. Sure. I mean, everyone, we're all trying to get to the same outcome. So let's spread a little more positivity and love and try to understand one another. And when we started to actually listen to one another instead of just constantly debating one another, saying this is wrong, things started to calm down. Things started to become more organized, and we started to figure things out together as a team. And that really, really helped. My girlfriend was kind of the moderator who was like, okay, I'm in the middle here, but I just want to make sure Matt's okay. And she was there. I'm going to give you a little perspective. She slept over every night I was going through chemo. She'd stay over when I was feeling sick. And then throughout those 53 days in the hospital, she only left that hospital when she had to go to work. Her birthday was during that time, you know, Valentine's Day, everything. She never went out with her friends. She stayed in that hospital every single day with me and spent hours at a time just sitting there. And I would say for 40 of the 53 days, I couldn't even talk. So
wow,
she was an angel sent down for me, for sure.
That's
so incredible.
It is great. And the two of you are still together, I'm guessing.
We are, yes. You know, we're in the process of you know, looking at rings and stuff. So
Well, funny you should mention, Dr. Jacalyn has a sponsor, Margie Cedrone. You'll see her commercial a little later on. She makes custom jewelry, but congratulations.
She made my necklace, Dr. Jacalyn. I was just going to say something, because in my experience in relationships with men, a lot of times I would say I had ulcerative colitis and they would literally run. And the fact that what you went through, that she stood by you, to me is just, she is truly an angel. I mean,
She is.
You don't find people like that very often.
I'll share a really cool story with me and her. We met on St. Patrick's Day of 2016. And, she went through this entire journey with me. And literally after 53 days in the hospital, the day that I was released from the hospital was March 17th of 2017, which was exactly 1 year from when we met. And that was a huge part of my journey and huge part of my story. And I really, really think, I don't push faith on anybody, but I do truly think that God put her in my life for a reason. And we make this day like such a special day for us, just because it's the day we met, the day that I was finally on my road to recovery and in the next step of my life and in my journey. And I don't know, there's just too many things that I can't explain that would just entail that there's something else out there that has helped me through this journey, helped me through this situation. And, I thank God every single day for it. So
that's another area to explore too. And I know we have a break coming up at some point, Dr. Jacalyn.
Yes, I was just about to announce our break.
But when we come back, maybe after the break, we can talk a little bit about your faith and how it helped you through this. And when you close your eyes and think of God, what does he or she look like to you? Because I don't think anything brings you closer to God than an experience like the one you.
100%. When I close my eyes, I always start off with what I'm thankful for, because I always say if you just constantly ask without thanking and appreciating what you have, what's the point of it? It's like you're never enjoying the journey and all you want is the destination. So I first thank God for everything that he's given me. I'm grateful for it. I'm appreciative of it. And then I say, what is today? Like if I'm struggling with something, what can you help me with this specific thing? Be very specific in your prayers. Don't just be broad and say, I want to eventually become a millionaire. I want to eventually grow my business. No, be specific on your day. Say, hey, listen, I'm struggling with this today. Can you help me with this problem moving forward? And yes, at night you can pray the bigger things and stuff like that. But I think when you get very specific, that's when your prayers get answered. That's when you're allowed to say, hey, okay, how do I overcome this situation today? So that's really helped me when I close my eyes and I really ask for guidance.
That's impressive.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I was just going to say the day that I received the videos and the pictures that you sent over, I don't know what I was going through, but I felt kind of like boo-hoo, sorry for me, for an hour or something. And I saw those and I thought, really? Why don't you just suck it up and get over yourself? Because look what Matt went through and look where he is today. And you're having a little pity party.
Well, I will tell you this. Every one of us is going through our own challenges in life, and don't ever, minimize your setbacks and your challenges. I do love sharing my story so I can give some perspective on a broad range, but we all are going through difficult moments, whether it is in our business, in our relationship, in our health. And, I think at the end of the day, we other people can relate to your challenges. Maybe they're not as, big as what I went through, but they can relate to your challenges more and you can impact them through what you're able to go through. But I do agree. I think on a broader, I do it too. The reason it's been so incredible, because I actually started a Facebook group where we have over 200, young adults who've been impacted by cancer, and me just getting to hear their story every day allows me to put perspective in my day too. So even though I went through a lot, it puts perspective and gratitude into my day as well. So, I'm happy I was able to help you, but also just realize your challenges and your setbacks are all helping you to grow and move you forward.
Absolutely. I will allow myself up to an hour of a boo-hoo pity party, but then that's it. It's like,
that's it.
We have to move on. So we need to take a break and hear from some of our sponsors. We're going to hear from Margie Cedrone, artisan jeweler, first, and we'll be back with Matt Odie and my co-host Al Cini here on Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn. Stay tuned.
Great.
Located at 121 Haddon Avenue in Westmont, New Jersey, is Margie Cedrone, artisan jeweler. Margie's been in business for more than 30 years. She works with her clients to create custom pieces of jewelry to reflect their personality and help them make their own bold statement. Starting in the renowned Jewelers Row in Center City, Philadelphia in 1988, Margie works directly with her clients to develop one-of-a-kind pieces such as necklaces, engagement rings, wedding bands, unique watches and tennis bracelets, as well as a myriad of rings and earrings for everyone in your family. She also has worked directly with Dr. Jacalyn over the years, creating unique pieces of jewelry to reflect her personality. She does pearl stringing and repairs on site at 121 Haddon Avenue. Call or text Margie at 215-384-7155. Margie Sajone Jewelry is open by appointment only. Make your own bold statement.
Have you just lost your job or have been laid off and you are looking to transition to a new job or career? Maybe you have even tried submitting tons of applications and yet you keep getting turned down for jobs you qualify for. Don't wait until you become overwhelmed with rejections when you can easily transition or get your dream job. Let MJW Careers guide you to the right career path and a better, brighter future. At MJW Careers, we know what hiring managers are looking for, and our goal is to land you the job you deserve. What makes MJW Careers a wonderful provider over other services is our pragmatic and scientific approach to resume writing. There are rules, there are visual cues, there are content best practices. We understand those and work within the boundaries to ensure our clients' messaging appeals to the decision makers. Our career consultants will help you transition into new roles quickly and effectively. With our experience in virtually every industry, we will provide direction in the frustrating job market by helping you write a customized, professional resume and prepare you for your interview as well. Join the great number of people we have helped scale up to greater things in their careers. Let us help you on your career journey. Come visit us, www.jobstickers.com, to learn more and grab a free resume review or ebook.
RVN TV is a platform for people of any industry to share their story. Over 285,000 viewers are tuning in to RVN TV shows monthly. We guarantee a great experience that you'll be sharing with everyone you know while increasing your personal and company's brand awareness. But what is your brand? According to Forbes, it's a combination of your logo, your product, your design and feel, and your personality. Did you know that aside from being a guest, we offer even more opportunity to boost your brand? Adding your company logo and website on screen during your interview will allow viewers to recognize your brand instantly. Incorporating images and video clips is another great way to showcase your product during your live segment. Let viewers see how good you really are. And most importantly, there's you and your interview. For less than the cost of a newspaper, direct mail, or a magazine ad, you can leave our studio and within 48 hours have a permanent digital copy of your live segment to link to your social media, embed into your company website, or use in email marketing. Investing in your brand is so very important, and we can't wait to have you as a guest.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Today's show is sponsored by Dr. Jacalyn. Take charge of your life personally, financially, and professionally. Visit drjacalyn.com to book an appointment today.
Welcome back to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, live on Business Talk Radio, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. I'm here with my partner and co-host, Mr. Al Cini, and our special guest, Matt Odie.
All right.
We have so much more to discuss with you. I want to get into how you recovered and then went into motivational speaking, sharing your story to encourage others to come forward. And you just talked about this Facebook page that you have. Can you share a little bit more about those two things?
Absolutely. So would you like me to start with my recovery to how I got started in the whole process? Okay.
That'd be great.
Awesome. Yeah. So we'll start with when I was, released from the hospital. And, when I was released from the hospital, I had dropped down, like I was saying, from 185-pound personal trainer to 110 pounds. I just overcame 5 major surgeries. I was recovering from kidney and liver failure, recovering from my coma, everything. So it wasn't like, oh, hey, Matt, you're out of the hospital. It's time to just go back and relive your life. No, it was time to rebuild my life. And, for the first couple of weeks, I really started to get into a victim mentality. And the reason is because I stopped having the accountability of nurses, constantly having the accountability and, the attention of doctors every single day. And, within 2 weeks, I ended up back in the hospital with a standing heart rate of over 150 beats a minute. I had blood pressure through the roof. My temperature was over 105 degrees. So I ended up staying in the hospital for an entire week where they had to get control of, pretty much my body again. And when I was, released again, me and Lauren, my girlfriend, sat down and we had pretty much the discussion that changed my entire life. And that was, listen, Matt, if you're going to keep playing this victim mentality, if you are not going to do the things that you need to do to start bettering yourself, you are probably not going to be here next month or in 3 months from now. Your body is not okay and you need to start recovering. And it wasn't a mean conversation. It was just a very true, heartfelt conversation. And literally the next day, I took a 180. This is really good for anybody who feels like they're in a rock bottom situation right now. I took a 180 and this is what I did. All I did was I picked up a 5-pound dumbbell and I started doing bicep curls. That's it. That's all I did. The next day, I started to do it again. And then I started to walk a little further. And then I started to eat a little bit better. Every single day, I did one little thing to get me to my destination. And at that time, it was healing my mental, emotional, and physical health. That was it. That's all I could do. So I had to do one little thing every single day. So if this is you in your business right now where you're like, I have no idea where to even begin because I feel like I'm in one of the lowest points of my career or, myself in general, start with one small thing a day. Remember, when you build little bricks, you can then eventually build an empire. But it takes time. It takes consistency and discipline. And that's what I said. I said, I'm not going to give up on myself. Yes, I'm going to have difficult days. Yes, I'm going to have setbacks. But every single day, I'm going to keep the promises I make to myself. Think about that. When you keep the promises you make to yourself, you're more motivated, you're more confident in yourself, and you actually take the actionable steps to get to where you need to be. So that's what I did. And like I told you, for 2 years, it took me to heal. So it took a full year for my wound to eventually heal. And then another year for me to gain my strength back, gain, the PTSD, the anxiety, all of that. And after that, I started to then realize, okay, Matt, I obviously did not go through this for nothing. What is my next step? What is my next direction? And a lot of us might be able to relate to some challenging moment in our life saying, hey, listen, there's a bigger path in us than just me sitting in front of a computer screen from 9 to 5 at a job that I don't like. If you love that job, great. But if you don't, which unfortunately most people that I've talked to don't, those experiences allow you to really have perspective on your life. And it really gave me a huge, deeper meaning. And then what helped me was I started to get around the right people. I'm going to tell you this again. Your environment is almost everything when it comes to figuring out where you need to go. If you are hanging around people who are constantly bringing you down, constantly dragging you down, constantly worrying about what they did in high school and their glory days, guess where you're going to go? You're going to go right to those situations and you're going to constantly be living in the same exact scenarios they are for the rest of your life. But if you're around people who constantly want to grow, look towards a better future, look towards growing themselves, looking towards being a better version of themselves so they can impact others, you're going to start gravitating towards that direction. So I started to it's kind of crazy because at first I was like, oh, maybe I need to be around cancer groups. But instead I started being around entrepreneurs because entrepreneurs are the ones that have that vision, have that growth mindset, have saying, hey, listen, how do I take a problem and turn it into a solution? And I started to, get around business groups. I started going into masterminds, things like that. And the more I started to share my story, they're like, wow, you need to get that out more. And that's how I started my motivational speaking, was just by joining groups and them giving me the motivation, giving me the courage to just get started. Half of the battle is just getting started, and then it's taking those steps to keep pushing forward. So, I started getting on stages. I started to talk a little bit more. And then, of course, COVID hit, and it really took a wrench into my speaking. I did do a lot of podcasts. I did do a lot of Zoom calls. But I started to say, okay, how do I monetize my speaking? Because I knew in the beginning anyways, I wasn't going to just do speaking the rest of my life. I wanted to do more than just speaking. I wanted to make a big, big impact in this world. So I said, okay, how can I get into coaching? How can I make coaching a massive platform? And who do I want to help? And I started to look back in my past. I said, okay, well, what is a problem I can solve? Okay, I went through X, Y, and Z, and I overcame this. And this is something that I'm passionate about, so I can help people with. And I started to say, okay, how can I help? Not just, I say young adults, but it's really anybody going through cancer and it's overcame cancer. And I said, okay, I want to really help survivors gain that next path, gain that next clarity after cancer so they can live a more purposeful and impactful life. And that's why I created a Facebook group where we have over 200 members now in a matter of 2.5 weeks. And it's constantly growing. Every single day we're getting new members. It's just been very humbling to get to see the stories and what people are overcoming and how, how their mindset is as well, and how I can help them through the challenges they're going through. So that's kind of how I got started throughout this whole series.
That's
I just have to say, I feel like running through the streets screaming with joy, because that was so uplifting, so authentic and genuine. And I wish I was having some convention or conference that I could hire you, because that was amazing, truly amazing.
I'm really glad we record these, because it'll be good to go back over this and play it back.
Yeah.
Matt, I want to try to make it real for people out there who might be considering an event that they're planning to say goodbye to 2020, which everybody wants to do.
Yeah.
And say hello to what they think is going to be a better 2021, what they know can be. I mean, lately I've been talking about Happy New Year and how it really isn't a wish, it's an action item. If you really want to make a Happy New Year, I love your message that you can do it incrementally by making little promises to yourself that you keep day by day. And, that if you see it as just all those little bricks, as you said, that sort of you use to build an empire, I think that's a great message for people who might be planning an event and want to kick it off with a really powerful message of resilience and hope. How do you work with, let's say, a company that might want to hire you to be a speaker? What do you do with them to make it real for them?
Yeah. So how I have been able to get, asking how I've been able to kind of get on stages and speaking and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So what I usually do is, my biggest platform is I actually go onto Eventbrite and different platforms and find what I do. I'm very strategic. I look for different events that are tailored towards what I am an expertise in. So overcoming adversity, mental health, health and wellness, things like that I know can make a big impact. Even some corporations, because I know that, with my message, it is a little more broad. So it's a good thing that I can reach more people. But you have to be very how I would really say is, be very specific with who you want to talk to, because you can't just go and say, I'm going to go talk to this person, and then you go and tell them your message, and it has nothing to do with what they're planning. You need to get in front of the number one thing is getting in front of the coordinator. So you need to find who's the coordinator of the event, find who the coordinator is, and then say, what is the unfortunately, it's not what the audience wants. It's what does the coordinator want, because you're talking to the coordinator right now. And then when you get on stage, you can then impact the audience by what you want. But it's kind of a game here. You got to say, hey, listen, what is it that you want me to help you with? And obviously you need it to be in correlation of what you can do. And then if you want to change your message up a little bit to your audience, that's totally fine. But what I'm trying to say is get in front of the right coordinator for the event, figure out what is the problem they need solved, or what is the message that needs to be heard to their audience. And if you can do that for them genuinely, not just for the money, because if you're just chasing the money, you're going to go down real quick. But if you're doing it with authenticity and saying, hey, listen, here's an actual situation that I can help your audience with, then it's just it's genuine, it's real, and you're able to do it. And yes, it takes research. It takes a lot of research. For me, it's going through these events saying, hey, listen, is this an event I can do? Is this an event? Eventually you can learn to delegate things. I have now an assistant who goes in and does the events for me, and then I can do and finds the right people, and then I can start the conversation. But if you're just starting off, you're going to have to do the dirty work first. Get dirty, get messy, and say, hey, listen, I'm going to have to block out 3-4 hours of my day. If I really want to make this a reality in my life, I'm going to have to block out 3-4 hours of my day, go and find the right people, have genuine conversations. Sending out mass 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 emails, it might work, but the authenticity isn't there. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, you might get in front of the right person and you might be able to find that, but you're going to eventually have to have a real conversation with the person to make that happen. So that would be my advice. And you can do that through event pages. You can also do it through LinkedIn. LinkedIn's awesome. LinkedIn is a great page because you can use what's called Sales Navigator, meaning you can go on and find specific organizations that you'd like to talk to. And then you can find specific, with that, you can find like specific people in that organization. So you can type in event coordinator, event planner, and then find the whole list and then just start messaging them and see what happens, So many options out there.
Okay, now I'm writing that down. Eventbrite, find the coordinator, talk. Matt Odie, sales and marketing genius. That's really,
I've had mentors who've helped me with that. So I'm giving you the money that I spent with my mentor, and I'm going to give all of that away for free because I know at the end of the day, it's not always about the information, it's about the implementation.
Well, and about the implementation, I mean, it's one thing to get up in front of a bunch of people and say things. It's another thing to get up in front of a bunch of people and give them things they can do. Give them an actual plan that they can follow. And I think that's a real difference for you. How do your audience react to what you say? What kind of response do you get?
It depends on who I'm talking to. My message changes slightly to my audience. If I'm talking to young adults, I'm going to talk more in a young adult format and figure out what is their specific pain point. How can I use my story and message to impact what they're currently going through? So, I'm not going to be able to really give business advice to, somebody who is for cancer survivors, but I can give them business advice here, or I'm not going to be able to really do X, Y, and Z for this person. So you find out who your audience is. And really, my story is the same, but my message is slightly different. That's it. Story is the same. And remember, stories sell. You guys know this. Stories sell. People will remember my story more than they'll remember, just some tangible. They'll remember some of the tangible advice too, but most of the time, people will remember the story that you go through because it allows them to put that into their life in some way or form of perspective. And that's what really helps me is it's staying very authentic with my story, but changing the message slightly.
That's great.
And I think that the amount of passion that you have, and again, how authentic you are and genuine really just comes screaming through, which it's amazing. Thank you. And something else that really resonated with me is I knew your story as we spoke before, and I interviewed you before, but to someone looking at you now, and the way you look now and how animated you are and intelligent you are and capable you are, it's almost hard to believe that you're not Superman. But yet you shared with us that you did go through the victim being, why me, that whole thing. And I really thank you for sharing that because that just makes your story so much more, what's the word? It just... Yes, it makes it so real because if people look to someone like you and they say, oh, well, that guy's superhuman. I mean, he just has some incredible powers that we don't have. But actually, you are a genuine person who went through a horrible situation. And you did say at some point, wow, I'm really, whatever you said, I'm really sick of this, or why is this happening to me? And then your team, your tribe, they helped bring you back to where it is you needed to go. And then you realize it's one step at a time.
Yeah, thank you so much. And honestly, yes, that is the number one thing I figured out. And this is a message to a lot of people who, especially men, I mean, women too a little bit, but mostly men out there, we are so afraid to share our most vulnerable, our vulnerability in life because we feel like we have to be this strong person, this, strong father figure or this strong, individual that we can't express with what we're going through. And guess what happens? All it does is it's a little burden every single day. It's like a weight put on our shoulder every single day, causing anxiety, causing distress, causing anger, causing frustration. And when you can finally release all of your baggage and say, listen, this is who I am, and you can either accept me or you don't, and I'm going to share everything with you because that is what allows me to help other people. And I'm not saying you have to go on grand stage and share it, but what I'm saying is if you really want to truly impact people, like you said, when you're vulnerable, they can relate to you. And also for yourself too, when you could open up, oh my gosh, it took me 2 years to really open up. Remember, I had to take care of myself. And when I said I had to take care of my mental, emotional, physical health, that was part of the process of saying, can I share myself? It was very difficult to share myself when I was 115 pounds and I looked like a skin and bone. And 8 months before that, I looked, very fit. And eventually I said, you know what, Matt? I am who I am. I'm going to accept what I went through. And I pray that I can help somebody in this process. And the love and, the acceptance has been absolutely incredible. Have I gotten some negative feedback? Absolutely. But guess what? When you do something great with your life, expect negativity, expect people to bring you down. That means you're actually doing something with your life. That actually means you're progressing forward. When you start to get negative people and you start eliminating certain people from your life, just realize that if your intentions are good and you're going into a direction of where you're really doing what you want with your life and helping the right people, you are going to lose some of those people, but it's for a good reason.
That in itself is great advice, because if somebody tries to bring you down and you choose to believe what they're saying, then you're complicit in your own failure at that point. Mm-hmm. So when somebody says something negative to you and you just choose to ignore it and maybe cut that person out of your life so that you don't have to deal with that kind of negativity, I think that in itself is a great piece of advice to give people.
Thanks. Yeah, and that all comes down to the environment, that I was talking about before. When you're around the right people, you're going to head in that direction. Yeah. When you are around those negative people, it doesn't matter where you go. Every time you succeed, if you constantly hang around those people, they're going to bring you right back down to where they are every single time. Yeah. So
it's so true. There are people who it seems they want you to fail. And I believe that's because they don't like themselves. They're not happy in their own skin, in their own body. So they just want to be bringing other people down too. So yeah. I think that's a really good point about eliminating those people from your life if you can.
Definitely. And when 100%. They're out to get you, don't help them.
Yeah. And if it's somebody who's really close to you, you got to realize and let them know that your time and energy needs to be spent somewhere else, because I can't keep spending my time and energy. Yeah. Okay. Maybe it's a really close one or a loved one that, you thought was going to be a big part of your life, but you realize, hey, I can't be spending as much of my time and energy with this person. People come and go, or people stay in your life, or people are only meant to be in your life for, certain parts of the time. So just realize that it is okay to let go.
Good.
Very well said. Matt, I just wanted to ask you, I know, and Al, you and I have talked about this, but for me, during the pandemic, I got my yoga certification and I'm working on getting my meditation teacher training certification. Have you used either of those in your recovery and today?
For me, I'm a certified personal trainer. So are you saying have I used yoga or anything in there?
Meditation, yoga, or do you recommend
meditation? Yes. Yoga's been tough because of my abs. So as you know, with yoga, you are using your abs 24/7 in those poses. It's really tough. So, I'm more of a meditation type, or if I do yoga, it's way more not as much movement in core work because I just can't use it. So meditation's been massive though. I will tell you this, meditation is so important because it allows you to detach yourself from all of the negativity and it allows you to visualize what you truly want in your life. When you can visualize what you want and get it super clear and super specific, you'll be amazed at the opportunities, the people, and the ideas that come to your mind. So I think meditation and yoga are absolutely incredible. But I've been focusing on meditation, even just doing it 10 minutes a day. It's absolutely amazing. So
good.
Yeah, it really is life-changing.
Mm-hmm.
Real quick too, because I know we're eventually we run out of time on these programs, which is a shame.
It is a shame.
You were such a great guest, but your medical future.
Yeah.
You pay attention to your health. You've got to go in for scans and checkups. How do you stick to a program like that?
Yeah. So, how do I stay sane during it kind of?
Yeah,
or
pretty much. I mean, how do you...
Okay. Yeah. Cause this is the number one thing. Honestly, if I were to say one of the number one things that most cancer survivors struggle with is the PTSD of cancer potentially coming back in their first, in their early years, or a problem happening in the future. The biggest thing that's helped me, the number one thing that's helped me is, you kind of mentioned this too, is stop letting cancer define you. But how do you stop letting cancer define you? Or how do you stop letting situations in your life define you? For everyone who's watching on the business podcast, you have to be bigger than yourself. I'm going to say this again. You have to be bigger than yourself. When I said that cancer is no longer about me and it's about serving others and it's about being a better version of myself so I can impact others, my focus went towards helping other people. When you're constantly giving and serving, you can't be dwelling about what's happening, what could potentially happen at cancer, because you're too busy concentrating on helping others. So for your situation, maybe you're in business. If you're always focusing on the money, guess what's going to happen? You're going to constantly look at your paycheck, you're never going to be authentic in your sales calls. You're never going to be authentic when you're trying to talk to a coordinator. You're never going to be the person that your customer needs, because you're only worried about the money instead of actually solving their specific problem. Be bigger than yourself and help the person that, really needs to hear your message or what you can help them with.
That is great.
That was really powerful. Very well stated, because there are definitely people who are completely obsessed with money, obsessed with things and how much stuff they have. And
if you want the money, then you need to focus on the people. Look at the most successful people in the world. Jeff Bezos is the richest person in the world because he's constantly focused on his customers and satisfying, how can I make my customers better? How can I serve them at the highest quality? And how can I make sure that my employees are constantly serving them at the highest potential? It was never about the money for him. Look at him. He doesn't drive. He in the beginning, there's cool interviews where he was driving a just normal beat up car, and they did like a funny interview with him. And he's like, it didn't matter to him. It wasn't about the material things. It's about actually making an impact in this world. And that's where you can get the money. You really want the money? Go make a big impact.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Really great. Matt, where can people reach out to you? I'm going to, for our friends on social media, we have our banner, but for people on Business Talk Radio, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my two biggest social media platforms is Instagram and Facebook. So Matt Odie on Facebook, and then MATTY ODE. So it's Matty Odie on Instagram. It was just a long time ago I made it and just never changed it. So those are my two big platforms. If you want to check me out on LinkedIn too, I'm Matt Odie on there as well. I'm active as well. And then down below, if you just check me out, you can, if you're ever looking for a speaker, please go check out my speaking page. It's just mattodiespeaks.com. I would love to connect. You can connect with me on there, or you can shoot me an email at mattodiespeaks, and would love to, see how I can help and impact your audience.
You are an incredible individual, Matt Odie, and I feel really grateful to have met you and to be able to interview you twice. And I hope I get to meet you in person sometime.
Yes.
And your, I guess, girlfriend, soon to be fiance.
Yes, hopefully. No, yeah, it will be soon. Yeah, 2020 was a crazy year to say the least. So we're just figuring some things out together. But yep, very soon, hopefully.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
All the best.
And Matt, thank you again for sharing your story. If you'll wait around backstage for us, Al and I will be right back with you.
Thanks, Al. Thanks, Dr. Jacalyn. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you, Matt.
So, Al, once again, we have a guest who just leaves me speechless in so many ways.
He was absolutely right. People resonate with stories, and he's had such a powerful story to tell. I'm sure anybody who was listening or watching was profoundly moved by what Matt had to offer. I'm hoping people out there who are planning an event will consider reaching out to Matt, getting to know him, and maybe including him as a speaker in those events.
Absolutely, because I can just tell you, I am so motivated right now. I feel like I could go out and run 10 miles.
I know.
That's insane. So, Al, can you just give our audience your contact information if people are interested in reaching out for brand and cultural alignment?
In addition to the work that I do with Dr. Jacalyn on her business show on Wednesdays, we also align the brand and culture of organizations, which is essentially teaching organizations how to walk their talk. We've wrapped a little bit of science around that, and people have a lot of fun doing it. The result of it is that people make, like Matt said, little plans of improvement incrementally, day by day, the 2 or 3 little things that I can do to make me better or make me a better member of my team. And giving people a picture of what that better version of themselves looks like is what brand and culture alignment is all about. And that's, Dr. Jacalyn, what you and I do together when we coach teams.
Yes, and I'm loving it that we're able to bring the message to the masses, and especially now when people really need to bring their team members, that align them with the North Star and getting their team to row in the same direction.
Yeah.
So thank you again, Al, for joining me, and thank you for repping that fabulous hat.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Jacalyn, and thanks for the fabulous hat. I really
Absolutely. I'll see you backstage.
Okay, you bet.
And I just wanted to say thank you so much to those of you out there, Business Talk Radio, who watch our program Wednesdays and Fridays. And also, if you are ever considering being a guest, please reach out to me on Facebook or YouTube. But the best thing is to go to my website, drjacalyn.com. So once again, thank you. We are looking for sponsors. I'm going to play a brief commercial, and then we will say goodbye for this week. Once again, thank you. Hi, I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. I'm the executive producer and host of the Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn programs. My programs are on RVN TV, Business Talk Radio, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. I'm also the morning host of Tuesday Morning Coffee on RVN TV. I'd like to invite you to be a guest on one of my programs, as well as consider sponsorship. Your sponsorship can include a custom-made commercial designed for you by the Dr. Jacalyn team, or you can use one of your own commercials. You have the opportunity to promote your brand, your book, or even a cause that's near and dear to you. You can reach out to me at Jacalyn@drjacalyn.com or through my website, drjacalyn.com. Thank you. I'd love to have you on my team.